Well, hey there. Thank you for joining us today to learn how you can solve your pain points with Winthrop GP Power Tools, co-presented with njevity. Quick introduction. My name is Mike McPhillamy. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at njevity. I've been here for quite some time now, but really at the end of the day, I am passionate about helping Dynamics GP customers and partners find solutions that will make their lives easier. So you will definitely see that as we go through our webinar today. Quickly, I always like to show our mission, which is to improve the life and success of our partners and customers by providing exceptional business application experiences that simplify, inform, and delight. You will see this through and through everything that we do at njevity, whether it's through our support, whether it's through our cloud offering, PowerGP Online, or through the partnerships that we have in the ISV space, like with Winthrop. We really try and make GP users' lives better. So who is njevity? I know that we have quite a few people on this webinar who may have not heard of njevity. So just a quick introduction to who we are. We are committed to Dynamics GP. It is the only product that we work with and support, which is very uncommon now. A lot of partners are typically offering and supporting multiple different ERPs. Dynamics GP is our ride or die. We're fully committed to Dynamics GP, and we love it. We have 30 team members nationwide. Not only are we a partner, we provide support and implementation and project work. We're also an ISV, which I'll talk to here in a minute, and we are also a customer. We use Dynamics GP internally. So again, we absolutely love Dynamics GP. And again, I mentioned that ISV piece. We are the creators of PowerGP Online. So even though you may have not heard about njevity or know who we are, you may have seen us out as PowerGP Online. PowerGP Online is our cloud that we created specifically for Dynamics GP customers. But as you can see, at the end of the day, we are completely and entirely dedicated to your success on Dynamics GP. I'm not going to steal too much of David's thunder here. I do want to just talk again quickly to PowerGP Online. Because at the end of the day, if you are hearing about moving to the cloud, or you're thinking about moving to the cloud, you don't need to move to something different. You can keep GP and move to the cloud and get more. So you can kind of see here what we're doing. You can get to the cloud in days, not months. Best thing of all, you get to keep all of your data, all of your ISVs, all of your functionality, integrations, business processes. But we're giving you new cloud features that give Dynamics GP that more modern kind of cloud-based story. But really at the end of the day, when you're looking at moving to the cloud, what you're looking for is that ransomware protection, world-class security, which we also deliver in PowerGP Online. So if you have any interest in learning more about it, I'd love to talk to you, but I'm not going to take too much more time because I know that's not why you're here. You want to hear from David Musgrave with Winthrop to learn how you can eliminate some of your pain points in GP. So with that, I'm going to turn it over and introduce David Musgrave. David, let me make you the presenter real fast, and you can take it from here.
Sounds good. Okay, let's make sure it shows the correct screen.
All right, I'll yield.
Okay, so you should have the correct screen showing. Mike, is that showing the Power Tool screen? Excellent. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a presentation, but the majority of this is going to be demonstration because that's what you're here to see. So my name's David Musgrave. I'm the owner and managing director of Winthrop Development Consultants. I'm a Microsoft MVP, a GPUG All-Star. Last year, I also was given Community Summit Legend status, so I'm now a legend in my own mind. I've been in the GP world since '94, including 13 and a half years without a soul at Microsoft. It does come back. I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, so it is 10 p.m. for me at this stage. So good evening to you all. GP Power Tools, I created it originally as the support debugging tool back in 2006. When I left Microsoft, I asked for the rights to continue working with it and was able to get those, rebranded the product and re-released it as GP Power Tools in 2015. Since then, it's been released for version 11, so it's GP 2010 onwards, including last week we released the latest build 31 code for all of the modern lifecycle releases, so that's 18.2 onwards. The tool is now broken down into 4 modules. So if you might have seen this before, you might have seen 3 modules, now it's 4. The administrator tools, developer tools, the new form control tool module, database tools, and then there's a number of system features that are required for all of the other modules. So I'm not going to spend my time reading this to you because I'm basically going to be showing this to you. But the administrator tool includes everything that makes GP easier to use and administer. Lots of features that your users will enjoy. They won't actually realize that there are things happening for them, such as remembering window positions and changing colors, backgrounds, and things like that. But they'll think it's part of the standard product. So we have the developer tools, which is everything you need for customizing GP. It is an excellent way of replacing VBA. We have many sites that have been replacing all of their custom code with GP Power Tools code. It also allows external communication with service-based architecture, so web service calls. It can build custom report writer functions, and you can even do URL drillbacks from external applications back into GP. So the new form control tool module, this is the culmination of the last 5 months of hard work. It is a low-code or no-code, low-code customization tool for Microsoft Dynamics GP. It can customize any form, window, field in any product dictionary. It's based on filters and rules, and you can just set up what you would like it to do, and it does it for you. It can be used to replace field level security. I actually wrote field level security originally, and it has some places where field level security doesn't work. Form control tools fixes those problems, is also a lot easier to administer. We also have the database tools. So these are everything you need to help maintain your system, particularly doing upgrades and or making test systems. It can help fix all of your user records so your logins can be all fixed and replaced. It can pick up table structures that are wrong, import and export data. You can use it to reset passwords. It also now, in the last build 30, or actually, sorry, build 29, we introduced the note index, sorry, the note fix utility, which is designed for fixing problems with note indexes. And then we've also got now in build 31 a new tool that will reclaim unused space and also, if you wish, compress your databases so that they take up a lot less space. So the system features are dealing with things like capturing screenshots and capturing logs, sending emails from inside GP. So I'll show you that shortly. The product has 2 sets of features. There are standard or user level features, which are safe for a user to use and should be available to all users. Then there's the administrator or advanced mode features, which can be used to change settings or read data directly or manipulate data directly. And those require not just the application level security being increased, or the role for that being added, but they also require increased privileges at the SQL level. And if you're using a system password, they will ask for that, or you can actually have a separate GP Power Tools administrator password just for Power Tools if you want. So installing, it does need to be installed everywhere. It does use a folder to store all of the logs and other files it might collect. That does mean that if you collect logs or screenshots, the administrator doesn't have to come to your machine. They can just go to the shared folder and they'll be able to see everything that you've captured. Okay, so normally I wait till after the demo, but I'm going to put this up right now. Is the base pricing is $100 for the system module, which is required, and then it's $450 for each of those 4 modules. The call to action, this is for you guys to go do after the session. If you're a partner, you can get a NFR license. You just need to sign up with us as a partner with Winthrop, which is free. If you're a customer, you can install and trial a 30-day trial period. Again, that's free. There's lots of information on the Power Tools portal, so winthropdc.com/GPPT. And also worth subscribing to my blog so you can see all of the new features. I'm going to be also publishing samples and demonstrations of what the form control module is capable of doing. So now the other thing that I've just put in here is I have training classes coming up at the Community Summit in San Antonio. There is a 5-day dexterity training class. If you want to be able to be self-sufficient and be able to do your own customizations, it is highly recommended that you come and do this 5-day class. It'll teach you dexterity, so that's the language behind GP. You can then use that to either work in dexterity. It's the primary language that GP Power Tools uses, but even if you're not working with dexterity or at all, and you want to work with Visual Studio, understanding how dexterity works will make that much easier for you. There's also a 1-day workshop during the academy classes, which will be a much more in-depth view and look at Power Tools and how to set it up and be able to play with it on your own system. So now we get to the fun stuff, the demo. So we'll say goodbye to the presentation, and I will start GP. So I was logged in. It actually logged me out, and that's part of the automatic logout functionality that is part of Power Tools. We'll come to that in a little bit. I will get an extra message that at the moment I've left on here. It's a very quick check on login, and it has actually identified that there is a problem with one of my my maximum node index or my next node index value, and I do get a warning about that. Power Tools actually checks a whole load of different things about your system on login and will notify you if there are problems. So it checks paths, it checks database space, it checks settings. There's a whole load of different things that it will check to make sure that your system is running smoothly. Okay, so we're into Power Tools itself. So the way the demo is set up is I'm going to give you some sort of examples of things that might go wrong or issues that you might have, and show you how Power Tools can help you fix those. So one of the first ones that I wanted to give is just an example of if I've got some sort of problem, and when I contact support, one of the things that they're going to ask me for is pretty well straight away is, can I have a screenshot of all the windows that you've got open? And that could be quite a few windows. So we can have lots and lots of things open, and all I've got to do is go to any window and select from there capture screenshots. It'll give me a list of everything that's open. If I want, I can say, well, I am not interested in the lookups, so I'll get rid of those. And then I can say, okay, email that. So it'll now capture all of the screenshots and generate an email. So this is the email. You can see the attached screenshots. It's also included the system summary report, which is in the body, as well as an attachment. It's got the launch file, and then it has the dex.ini file, both the global dex.ini or system dex.ini and the user levels dex.ini. So, and a quick look at the system summary report. This is a report about everything on the system. So if you're a consultant, this answers all your questions. So first of all, it's got information about the registration, zoom past that, information about the login, the operating system, the SQL Server and ODBC versions, the current databases and their sizes, information about the product versions and some settings. It shows you what customizations are installed, at the custom modified forms, etc. Shows you what add-ins are installed. Then it will show you all of the dictionaries that's installed with their versions, and whether or not it can find custom forms and assembly DLLs for those different dictionaries. So you'll be able to find out exactly what dictionaries are installed and what versions are there. And when we get down to the end, it has a list of the attached screenshots with the names of all the windows, and it will tell you whether they're original or alternates or modifieds. I probably shouldn't have closed lookups because we would have seen alternate under that. Anyhow, all of that was captured with one click. So you can send that off to whoever does your support, and you're able to do that without having to manually use snipping tool on each window and copy it into a Word document, or something like that you might normally do. That is quite a slow process. So now, the other thing that you're going to quite often get asked for is logs. And now, if you have worked with logs, you'll know the way that most people to capture logs is they just capture a dex.SQL log, and they do that by exiting GP, modifying the dex.ini, coming back, which also means that it's capturing everything now as you're coming back and logging back in. And because you exited and came back in, the problem no longer occurs. So that is also only one bit of information that you're getting. That's only giving you the communication between SQL and Dexterity. So with Power Tools, if you say, I know that there's some sort of problem when I save, I'll just say start logging, save, stop logging, and yes, email it. And it's now captured. And if I open up the zip file, you'll see the okay, there's the different logs. So we got the Dex SQL log that you'll be used to, but we've actually got everything from that we need. So first of all, we got the macro, which is the user's actions, what they clicked on, what they typed. Then we have all of the scripts run with their parameters that were passed and the dates and the time that they were run at. We then also have the SQL profile, I'm sorry, the Dexterity profile, which is all the timing information. So this is really good for performance checks. It will show you how many times a particular script has been run, how much time was spent in those scripts. So that's where you can debug performance issues. Then we have the DexSQL log, which is the communication between Dexterity and SQL, but it doesn't show anything that happens at SQL, and that's where the SQL trace comes in, is it now picks up all of what happened actually at SQL. So with these 5 logs, we've got right from the user's actions all the way through to every SQL update. So we have everything that we need, and that is only for the time that we started and stopped logging. So it's a very targeted capture of logs. Okay, so I will close that. All right, so basically with those 2 tools, you'll be able to very quickly help your consultants or support teams with the information that they need. So now another issue that we've seen quite a lot of is just knowing what company you're in. If you've got a system where you've got multiple companies, access, hold on, let's make sure it does spell it right. So, okay, I'm going to log into another company. Part of the issue is, how do I know when I'm logged into the wrong company? I've seen issues where a user's come to us and said, this is when I was consulting, and I have spent the day entering transactions into the wrong company. Can you fix that? And my answer was, yes, we can delete the old transactions and someone else can enter them into the new company, because that is going to be cheaper than me trying to import and export. So it's better that you don't make the mistake, and to help not make the mistake, you get some visual cues to help you. So I was going to show you through that. First thing I wanted to point out though is this window has been modified by Power Tools to make sure that you can see long company names. It's also put the database name as a suffix, prefix, but you can also have it as a suffix as you want. I can also change the order that companies are shown in this list to an indexed order, or I can actually just go and choose exactly the order I want. I can move them up and down. So, but we'll log into the test company. So there's a couple of things that you're going to notice One is you can start to see it there with the green showing up, is that the background color has been changed. You'll also see that I'm getting the message that I'm logging into a test company. Now that message is standard GP functionality that you can do by putting test into your company name. However, I've added a more info button. This was actually Kerry Hatley's idea. And it will now give you further information. So I can now say, well, I know the date ranges of my transactions in my GL. So I can tell how old this data is in my test company. And I can also see when it was restored and from what database it was restored from. So you can basically tell very quickly information about test and historical companies. So once I'm into the company, and we're in, okay, it didn't ask me for something that I expected it to. That's a little bit of a shame. It should have come up and asked me to change my password, or at least it should have come up and warned me that my password was going to expire. I'm not quite sure why it didn't. It's probably because I'd logged into this earlier today. It only does it once per day. Yeah, it will show you in advance if the password is going to expire. If you've ever had a session expire while it's in the middle of actually running GP, you'll know that causes all kinds of trouble. So now you can see this is the color coding functionality. I can very easily see that I am in a test company. I can also see that I have the name of the company or the database and my user at the top of the window. Now, you might say, well, GP puts it at the end of the window, but when you actually start looking at your list down here, you can't see the one at the end of the window. So this is going to help me see which session is which. So it does need to be at the start of the window. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to actually create a return. So I'm going to go to create return, and I get a message that I don't have security privileges. So I'm sure that your teams, your users or your consultants have seen this message in the past. However, PowerTools has added to it, and it's telling us that I've got access denied. It is telling me exactly which window in which dictionary that I have been denied access. So that's PowerTools adding the extra wording onto there. It also has opened up the security profiler for me, and I've taught my users that if they get error messages from the security profiler, that they should export them or email them to me, and then I'll be able to debug them for them. So if I go back to my main GP, actually, you probably noticed it here, but I'll just quickly point it out. The connect object, you can change that to whatever website you want. You can also have a full website within the background as well. So that's PowerTools making some changes for you. Okay, so this is the main PowerTools area page, and I'm going to go into the security profiler window. I'm going to import the log that was just exported. And now I can get to see the same error message that the user actually saw. So it's telling me window denied, field service, create return in, and it's for the user in the test company and David 24. So I can just say, show me security information. And this now is showing me, you can see David does not have access. If I look over here, you'll see that it comes up and says no access granted to create return. So if I want to give access to create return, I need to have a look at how I can do that. So I can make them a power user. That's not going to happen. I could make them a super user. Now, super user is similar to a power user. It has access to everything except that it doesn't bypass security like power user does. It is actually still using the security model, but has access to everything. So what I'm actually interested in though, and so I'm just going to make this window a bit bigger and resize that. Okay, so actually I might take it the other way. Okay, so we've got the task of TRX FSS RT01, and that belongs to either the RT agent or RT manager role. So I'm just going to make David an add-on here, RT agent, and save that. And if I come back here and refresh, you'll see that it now says he has access to granted to the original, and it's through RT agent. Okay, and you can see the tick box here. He has access to the original. Now, doesn't have access in Fabricam. I only added that to the test company. So, but I can contact David now and say, hey, you've got access, so try it again. So he can come back in here and say create return, and that window now opens. Now, sometimes if you make a change to security that affects the navigation, you can, rather than asking them to exit and come back, if they've got the security profiler window open, they can just go to options and say refresh the application navigation, and those choices that you've enabled will now become visible on the menus. So I'm going to close out David, but that just shows how easy it is to make changes. Now, if I double click here, I'm just going to get rid of RT agent so that next demo works. But that's how easy it is to make changes in security and make sure that users have access to what they should. Now, another situation that you might come across is you might come across a situation where you've got two users with this access to the same tasks and roles, but one of them has, or you need to deny something from one of those users, but you don't want to affect the other user. So normally the way you'd have to do that would be duplicating all of the tasks and roles involved. And with the security information window, you'd be able to easily find which those are, but you'd have to duplicate them and then take access away on the duplicate and then give that duplicate access or give the user access to those duplicates. And over time, your nice and simple tasks and roles become cluttered with lots and lots of duplicates with no easy way of telling what's different between them. So the problem is that unlike Windows or SQL Server, which have both a grant and deny layer, there is no deny layer in core GP. So this is where enhanced security comes in, and it has deny-based security. So I can actually go in and say, well, let's have a look at David, and I can go in through the menus, and I can say, okay, cards, sales, and customers. Now, David is terrible with customers. I don't want him having access to talk to any customers and be able to make any changes. So I'm just going to lock him out of customer maintenance, and that's it. I also don't want him doing returns because he keeps messing them up. So I'm going to come down to the other security objects, and I'll go to document access, sales, and we'll just take away access to the returns. So, and that is as simple as it is. You don't have to make any changes to tasks and roles. The deny-based security will override the setting on the task and role. And if we were to look at customer maintenance on the security window, you'll actually see now it says access is denied by deny-based security. Okay, so now the other thing that we've got with deny-based security is there are some items on the menus that you can never hide. For example, one of the ones that I know people ask me about a lot is, where is it, under setup, the setup checklists. You can't remove this because it's actually an object that's exempt from security. But with enhanced security, you can actually say, I'm going to just mark that as hidden. And so that will actually hide it off the menus. Even though I can't deny access to it through security, I can hide it from the screen. So now that then, if I want to, I can get a list of everything that's hidden and everything that is denied. So now at the moment, I've got my windows gone behind. So I'm just going to go to the tools menu and say raise all windows, which brings them all back up to the front. But if I go and say all users, all companies, you'll see there's my checklist. So I don't have to actually go through the tree to try and find them. I can see exactly what's denied. I'm going to actually mark all and delete just so that next time I do the demo, it'll work. So there's what I've denied, mark all and remove it, and that gives them access back to those. So while I've got the security information window open, I will actually show you one other thing is Okay, if I click on the AR Clark, actually we'll click on this task. She'll do it through here. Yeah, AR Clark, we'll find, what was it, 201. Okay, so if I say show resources, this shows me everything that that task has got access to. If I click on AR Clark, that's showing me everything. Let's turn on these others. Everything that role has access to. And if I click on David, I can now see a list of everything that that user in company has access to. I can then export that to a tab delimited file, which you can then import straight into Excel. So if your auditors actually want information on exactly who has access to what, you'll be able to show that. You can actually ask it to show the tasks and roles that will show you how they got access as well. Okay, so moving on. Another issue that you guys would possibly come across is trying to manage your user licenses. User licenses are expensive, so you want to make sure that you're using those as efficiently as possible. So what we can do is there are some settings that have been turned on, and we are tracking all of our user activity. So if I say for all users and company, so I can see here um, the user and which companies they've logged into. I can see how many times they've logged in. So you can see that most of the time I actually work with SA on Fabricam. It gives me the last 3 times that they've logged in, that that user has logged in. So I've got the last, or the current, last, and previous time. But more interestingly, if I look at the max users, and now my system's not all that exciting because it is just me and a couple of users. But this graph will show you when you've peaked in your usage as users. And if you were to click on any of the days, it will show you exactly who was logged in on that day. So you can actually check exactly who was using it. Now you might click on this and you might find, well, I can see that David was logged in on multiple sessions, and he's still in multiple licenses. So I could then go, well, maybe I want to limit how many licenses users can actually get logged into at any one time. So with the login limits tool, I can say, well, I don't want them to be able to use more than 2 sessions at a time. I can, if I wish, override that. So SA has an override, they can get into 3. I can also do a fun trick, which I can actually say reserve a license. So DynSA is actually set to reserve a license, which means that my overall license count will drop by 1, but there will always be at least 1 license available for DynSA. So maybe you could use that for your CFO or your admin, and always make sure that you have at least 1 license available. And licenses can be set on a user or per user per company basis. You can also do it on a per company basis. So if you've got a large and a small company, you can always make sure that the large company doesn't use all your licenses, so there are some available for your small company. So another thing that's going to help you with your licenses is making sure that users don't stay logged in when they're not using the system. So but on the license tab on administrative settings, this is where I can enable my activity tracking. And I did show you the summary with the last 3, but if you wish, you can actually turn on detail and have a record created for every login and keep the last 30. In this example, I'm keeping 30 days worth of logins. Also, everywhere you see this little user button, you can go in throughout the entire application, and you can change settings and set them to work on a per user or per company basis. You can also control it by user class, the alternate modified ID, the security role, and a security task. So you can have settings everywhere throughout the program you can control, and that includes with development and form control, as well as the administrator tools. So now you'll actually see this has got a little red icon that's new to build 31. It's actually a visual cue telling me that there is a user setting behind that button. So I can see that there is a setting behind there without having to actually open it. So under automatic logout, I've got the ability to control how long it will stay before it will try and log out an inactive user. We have some override levels, which we can use for either shorter or longer logouts that you can set on per user basis. We can also get more aggressive when our user count falls below a percentage. So I can say, when it gets below 10%, start logging out after 30 minutes. If you want to only log out of hours, you can control the hours and say, between 8 o'clock and 6 o'clock p.m., I don't want it logging out during the day. Except for the 2 weekend days where it can log out all day. So you've got that ability. We also have some smart options where you can control if it will log out by, or if it will save a window that's been edited at the time. So if the window can be saved and all required fields are entered, it will automatically save it. It can automatically close inquiry windows. And the final option is you can remove the activity record if you want. Now, when you do that, if a user fails to log out because they're still doing something, they will have their activity record removed. It would allow them to finish what they're doing, but as soon as they finish that, they will get kicked out. So that way, I should say with the automatic logout, it is always a graceful logout. It will never, ever log out other than gracefully. Now, if you are using terminal server and you are killing sessions that are left logged in, you're causing data damage. So you must log out gracefully. I actually recommend that if you do want to have terminal server kill a session, that you have that set to double the amount of time of the automatic logout to make sure everything logs out. But I actually recommend you don't use that at all. All right, so let's do a little bit of troubleshooting. So one of the ways that you'll often get asked to troubleshoot something when you talk to support teams, they'll tell you, get rid of all your customizations, turn off all your customizations, unload all your ISV products. And the only way you can do that is by editing your dynamics.set launch file and renaming or disabling VBA. And there's basically it's a lot of work, and it's also, if you start editing the dynamics.set yourself, there's a possibility you might make mistakes. So in Power Tools, I can disable products without having to even exit GP. So I'm just going to disable Smart List, and actually I'll leave it like that and apply that. We'll go back into cards and okay. So this is lookup. You might notice it's not quite behaving right. You can see the titles are not right. This is searching here, that this is not populated properly. There's no text up here. Basically, I've disabled the triggers for that window, but the modified, or the alternate window is still coming up. So I'm just going to say, okay, I don't want the alternate window either. And I will now get the old style lookup. So that's disabled it entirely. In fact, even if I ask it to enable those triggers, it will still work without giving it an error because when SmartList says, is my window open? Power Tools says, no, we've got the original window open and you should not be running your triggers. So this just allows me to enable and disable products, and you can do that until you've identified if the problem is with core code or the problem is caused by a particular add-on product. So I'll just enable that again and apply. You'll see that the lookup's back to normal. I also have the ability here to shuffle products up and down. And sometimes if there are two products trigger at the same point, sometimes you have to have one work trigger before the other. So you can swap the order of the products just by moving them up and down this list, or you can actually delete products as well. If you make changes to the launch file, it does make backups. We do also have here the option to disable VBA and disable Visual Studio Tools, either permanently or just for the one next login. So if you say next login, you set this, you exit, you log back in, and then they're set back on, and it basically allows you very quickly to have a single session without the VBA or Visual Studio Tools code running. Okay, so if we can debug that, we still might have a situation where we can see something happening, but we actually don't know how it's happening. So this is where, I mean, in fact, this is what Power Tools was originally created for. So I'm going to go and start off with the resource information window. And we're going to go into customer. So this window I'll explain in a little bit, but that okay, so pull up a customer. Okay, so as I move around this customer, you'll see over here it's telling me exactly what field I'm on and what the value of that field is. So, you know, let's say we have a problem with hold getting activated and we don't know how it's happening, whether it's programmatically or somebody's doing it. So if I go to the hold button and I can just confirm that that hold field is, the field is called hold. I can then say, if I don't want to use the resource information window, we've actually got another window called the resource finder, and that is similar to the resource information window, but it combines tables as well as window fields. And it is actually telling me that this hold field, the only field it can actually, or only table it could exist in on this form is the customer maintenance window, or sorry, table. So you can see here, and if I want to, I can just say preview the data, and this will preview the data as a SQL query. Okay, so I now know the field that I'm interested in, and I'm going to create some triggers. I'm going to turn these on. So I'm going to have some automatic logging triggers. So right now, we have these cust hold triggers active, and the idea is that they will allow me to debug what's happening within here. So when I click on the window field, I've got one bit of code that's going to run. So that's actually telling me that the button's triggered. When I hit save, it's going to run a whole series of events. So we should actually watch them happen. It's going to capture screenshots and logs. Okay, and there we go. So here are the screenshots with the system summary. Now I can make these send automatically. I've asked it not to so that I can show them to you, but this is screenshots of what was open when that happened. And this is the logs captured, and it's telling me that the field has been changed from 0 to 1. It tells me who did it and when it happened. It shows me where the logs are. So the logs are stored in my shared folder, but they're also attached as an email, and it says that it's sending the email. So that allows me to very easily identify the last script run before something changed in a table. So this is where Power Tools can be used to debug issues that are inconsistent and difficult to reproduce. So now the other thing that we can do at this point is if I want to capture these logs, right now I'm capturing logs all the time. But if I know that the problem only occurs when I'm on this window, I don't want to keep logging all the time. There is an overhead in logging. So I'm going to turn off the logging. And instead, I'm going to activate some different triggers. So we'll turn on the non-logging automatic starts. So there's actually a few more triggers in here than I actually need for this demo, but that's fine. The ones I'm looking for, when I open, you'll see what happens is when I open the customer maintenance window, we need to see that. Okay, when I open customer maintenance, you'll see that the logging will start only while the window's open. So now it's capturing the logs, and when I close the window, the logging stops. So that way we can actually control the logging to make sure it only actually runs when we want it to. So that's just an example of using Power Tools to capture and help you debug situations. So now another situation that you might come across is if you've got some scripts that you run on a regular basis, every time something happens, it's like, oh, DBA, can you run this code to fix this customer? It's happened again. The thing is that the DBA is not always going to be available. So This is where you can use Power Tools development tools. And I'm going to pull up the customer's example. And you can create scripts and then allow those scripts to be executed by your users. So I've got a SQL script here. And this SQL script at the moment is just going to display a range of customers. You'll notice it's using a syntax that is half dexterity based and half SQL based. So I can specify SQL quite happily, but I can also put in a field name in dexterity, its dexterity name in the braces or squiggly brackets. The keyword show will mean that it will use the technical name rather than the physical name. So the other thing is you'll see these from and to statements are using placeholders. They are related to this parameter list, which allows me to ask for a range of customers or whatever you wish to ask for. So when I execute the code, it says, okay, what range do you want? And I can just accept that, hit OK, run the script, and you'll see there it's now actually converted everything into pure SQL, filled in the parameters, and there's my result set. So now, obviously, if I'm going to want my users to run this, I don't want them getting into this window. In fact, they won't be allowed in this window because you need admin access to get into here. But I want them to be able to run the script, but I don't want them to be able to see or change the code. So in which case, I can publish the script, and I can control which users it's published to. So they just get to see the description, they can run the code, answer the question, see the results. So, but that means that they have to go to this executor window in the Power Tools menu. And I don't really want them to have to do that. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to use a trigger, and I'll start that trigger now as the window opens, so that they can just come up here and say, execute the query from customer maintenance to fix this. And here it says, okay, enter the customers, there's your range. Now, I can also add go-tos. So I've got a go-to here, which allows me to open customer maintenance to a particular window. It's a little bit like a particular customer, a little bit like a lookup. So here's Adam Park. I can also say, well, execute it for the selected. So instead of executing this and asking the user, I can actually read the screen and perform whatever actions I want. So now this was just a SQL statement with a select, but this could be any action you want, any bit of SQL code you can run, do whatever you need to do. And then if you want to, with the results shown, you can perform whatever actions you want on those as well. Okay, so that's basically self-service scripts where you can create your own scripts and let your users run them. So now, developer tools was designed also to be able to help you replace VBA. So I'm just going to give you a couple of demos in here. So this is one where I've got item maintenance modified. So if I go into item maintenance, so this, okay, now I'm going to explain a bit more about this window that you've been seeing popping up. This is a tool within Power Tools called Dynamic Product Selection, and it allows me to, on the fly, make selections of exactly which version of a window do I want to see, the original, the modified, the alternate. So the asterisk is telling me that A is the original, and if I go into that, that's my original window. But if I open it again and I say B, I get modified, and you'll see I now have some fields that were added with modifier. And if I open these, you'll see now there's the field is actually keep putting a web page against each item. And if I open up the URL, it will take me straight to that. So this here is dealing with the CRUD events. The triggers will allow it to deal with saving, deleting, and reading, so that this data just becomes part of the record. Okay, so now what I wanted to show you is this is something brand new and very tricky. So let me close that and go to, so Dexterity has a functionality which is undocumented and has not been used very well because most people don't even know it exists, but I can add fields using code, and these are called virtual fields. So I'm going to show you this example here. And if I open the original window, I have actually expanded the window and added a series of virtual fields onto the window. And now these fields allow me to make changes, save them, and they basically are functional as though that they were part of the main window. So that is a virtual field. Now, here's the fun thing. That was on the original window. If I open now the modified window, there's the modified window, but my virtual fields are still there. It's still expanded the window and added my virtual fields. Now, if I want to do that on a alternate window, this is an alternate window. It's got some extra fields at the top here, but my virtual fields are on here as well and still fully functional. So this just allows me to add fields onto windows without needing to have modified or alternate windows, purely with using code. So there is a trigger here to add the virtual fields. Basically that's the trigger to add it. That's the script that actually runs to do it. There's a handler, which is what will decide what happens when I click on those fields or enter information. And these are the handling the delete, read, and save events. So that is virtual fields. And I'll show you a little bit more about them soon, because I have another example using them, which is even more interesting. So I'm going to just show you one other feature. So Power Tools used to have a limitation that it couldn't add new windows. That limitation doesn't exist anymore because in combination with Visual Studio Tools, the Visual Studio Integration Toolkit, which is a product from also from Winthrop, I can actually create custom windows now. So let me show you an example here in SOP entry. You'll see that there's this site quantities. That is a custom window. And when I click on any item, it'll show me the levels of those items in the various warehouses. And I bet you I'm not going to be able to find one that has more than one warehouse. But yeah, I'm going to give up for that. But you can see as I click on an item, it will show me that, and that window opens and closes automatically. So this is a custom window that has been created. So actually, virtual fields, custom. Just for the fun of it, let's prove it works. This is doing a virtual field on top of a custom. So if I say show the stock quantities, you'll see here I've added some virtual fields. They're not doing anything at the moment, but I'm just showing it is possible to add virtual fields onto a custom form. So the limits, the options are sort of endless. So that's just a few examples of customizations written with developer tools. So finally getting to the cool bit. This is where I get a chance to show you a little bit about the new form control module. So this is form control setup. And I'm going to open up and I'm just going to enable this project because it's been disabled until now. Okay, so I've got a whole load of different examples that I can take you through. So one of them is with the requirement for separation of duties. You might find that you need to have users that will want access to customer maintenance to be able to see information, but they shouldn't be allowed to change it. So, and I will choose the modified one here, so you'll see that it works quite happily with additional modified fields. Now, I've got this set up with an optional password. I'm going to cancel, which will allow the window to open, but it will be in read-only mode. So now I have this window in read-only mode, and all of the sub-windows are also set for read-only mode. So I can use the window, but I cannot make any changes to that client. It is also possible to have that window in a read-only format where the fields themselves are not disabled, but save and delete just doesn't work anymore. And even if you make a change on the window, when you try to move to another record, it won't save it. So you can have it, which will allow you to be able to cut and paste information off it, but not be able to actually make any changes. So we've got somebody doing that with their vendor. The approver cannot edit the window, but they can only approve the workflow for adding a vendor. The accounts payable staff can make the change, but they can't approve. So there's a nice separation of duties there. So that was basically done with these two lock field options, which were just imported with make maintenance window read only and make address window read only. And they contain all the settings that you need. I also have a hide field setting here, which was asked to hide the email button and the bank button. So that will hide those from the customer maintenance and customer address forms. So another demo for you is we've got our guys in the warehouse, and they're coming to do their receivings. And we do not want our warehouse guys doing an invoice. So if they try to do a shipment invoice, this will block them. So, and it basically says, nope, you can't have that. You can have a shipment, you can have it in transit, but you can't have a shipment invoice. So I should point out that the locking the screen and the one that you've just seen, no code. Okay, that is just settings and form control. Give you an idea of how easy that one was. That is just a matter of saying on the POP form, the form POP receivings entry, for the field POP type, validate it that it's not to, and if it fails that, there's your message to display. That's how easy it is to do. There are there's almost 60 different rules here that can be used to do lots and lots of different functionality. It can completely replace field level security and do a much better job than field level security can. So here's another one for you. If I want to do some formatting of fields and validating fields and maybe even masking fields, if I come into inventory now, you'll see here that I've masked out my costs. These fields become visible if you click in them, but I've actually also got it protected with the password. If I can't get the password, I can't get into these fields. If I do get the password, then I can get into the field and it's editable and visible. Okay, so I also can show you, again, that's no code. I can come up here and type an item number in, and it's going to go, no, the format is wrong. I've actually asked for the format to be, I think it was 1234-123-1234. That will allow me to have it in that format, but if I try anything else, it will tell me no. Now this is actually using a regular expression, so you've got the option to use regex for controlling your formatting. Again, that's no code. Okay, down in my generic description, I've added a autocomplete in here and some formatting. So if I choose item 3, you'll see it formatted it to uppercase. If I choose something that's not in the allowed list, I get a message that it's not in that list. Again, no code. One thing that we have got in here is I've used this field to be able to put in phone numbers. What we got? So, and it's going to format it. So as I tab off, you'll see that it's formatted that phone number for me. So that's a standard Australian format for landlines. But with a little bit of code, I've actually taught it, if you get a mobile number, to format it differently. So that's the format that's used for for mobile numbers in Australia. So that's got just a single script, and you can have conditional formatting. So that just an example there of some things you can do. Oh, and my virtual fields are still sitting there at the bottom as well. Okay, so in sales order processing, I have wanted to be able to save the document I'm working on, but every time you save it, the document disappears and you have to look it up again. So I've added save and continue with Control S, and that will actually grab the key fields, press the save button, and then restore the record. So when I hit Control S, you'll see that it saves and then comes back. And I could use that for maybe print and continue. So I could then ask it to print, and then it will, after it's printed, it comes, restores, and brings it back. And you could add that to any window. So any window you want, you can make it do that. Now, you could just make it that when I press Control something, whatever you've set up, it just presses a button. So you can use that also to create a quick shortcut just to press a key or a button for you. Okay, so all right, if you are okay, the other one we got is a little bit more with some conditional logic for you. So this is a little bit of code in here on the account maintenance window. So one of the things that somebody told me was that by default, your accounts, you're gonna want 1 is your assets, 2 is your liability, 3 is your equity. So 4 needs to be profit and loss, or 4 or above needs to be profit and loss. So, and they were having their users forgetting to change the posting type. So if I just type in here and I type 4,000, you'll see that as soon as I type 4,000, it dropped to profit and loss. If I put that back to 3,000, you'll see it's back to balance sheet. So that's automatically changing. That's one small script. That's a low-code solution that allows you to do that. Now, this field here, I've renamed the caption here to conditional alias. You'll see I've also got test value down here as defaulting values. Again, that's no code. Changing that's no code. But what I have done though is I've got a little bit of code that says, depending on the value of the conditional, whether there's anything in here, user defined 1, 2, 3, and 4 will change. So I will disable, I will lock, I will hide, and I will change colors. So, and you can change background and font colors. So you'll see that that's still changed. And if I delete that record or delete that character, everything comes back. So this gives you the ability to, have code, adjust your window, make changes in settings and set values based on other fields. So that's a low code solution. So, all right, the last bit that I wanted to show you for the form control, at least at this stage, is combining form control with virtual fields. So I'm going to go turn this project on. So this project is running, and it's running for all forms that begin with RM, or they begin with SOP, or they begin with service, but you can change these rules and the filters as you wish. It's looking to see that customer number actually exists on the window, and if it does, it's using this script here. It's calling this script here, which will allow me to add fields onto the window. So the end result is that any window that has customer ID on it, and we'll start with customer maintenance. And this time I'll put in the password so we can get the access to it. It adds this status field here. And you can see that the status field changes depending, save that, on this status. And it's actually picking up whether this one here is telling me that that's over credit limit. If they go over credit limit and on hold, you'll see that they get a different icon because it's now both. If we go back here, you'll see that's credits on good status. Now it's on hold. So this shows up on any window where the customer ID is, except if you look carefully at my window, it no longer says customer ID, it now says client ID. It also says parent client ID and client maintenance. That's another form control rule. In fact, These rules here are no-code rules. I've just said to it, wherever you find customer, change it to client. So if we reopen sales order processing, you'll see when I bring up a customer, it's now a client ID and a client name, and it now has this virtual field showing the status of the window, or sorry, status of the customer. So you can basically use a combination of form control with virtual fields and add fields to any window with a single bit of code. The whole idea with form control is that it allows me to work across multiple windows, multiple forms, across multiple dictionaries, and it's all just rules and filters. So, all right, the last piece of the puzzle, a little bit about database tools. So what we'll do is we'll quickly show you some database validation. So now, just in case you do have some questions, there is a chat box. Please feel free to put any questions you have into the chat. So with database validation, right now I've got lots of ticks and everything's looking good. So I'm actually going to run a script that does nasty things and ask it to reread. So I've basically screwed up my system. So I can use this one just as general maintenance, and it's probably a good idea to do that, but also I can run it before an upgrade. I can also run it when I'm preparing a test environment, but it's identified problems with some of these users. So it's telling me that some of the users got access to companies that don't exist, or their logins are missing, or their database users are missing. So if I come down to the Fix Users button, this is basically if the option is enabled, it means that the problem exists. So it's telling me that there's no DynSA, and I need a DynSA. So I'm just going to create one with put in the password for it. It's telling me that the databases need to be assigned with DynSA as a DBO, so I'll mark that. It's telling me I've got this test company defined in GP, but it doesn't exist in SQL, so I will clean that up. Similar to the clear company script that you can get from Microsoft, but better. It's going to create the DynSA user. It's going to create all the access records. In my users, I've got users that are missing, so I'm going to say, well, let's keep lesson user 2, but I don't need these guys anymore, so I'll get rid of them. It's going to generate a password for me. So it's automatically generating a password, and I'll ask it to enforce policy, expire, and change on next login. It's going to recreate all the company access records that are wrong. It's going to make sure everybody belongs to Dyn groups, make sure everybody's DBO schema, and make sure that the company access records are correct. So let me process this. Okay, you wouldn't have heard it, but there was an email just sent out. There was my email made a noise. If I press this to screen, you'll, oh, I forgot to press the screen. It would have given you the list of users, but I did get, I'll just wait for it to come back in. There we go, it's come in. I got a password reset email, and here it is. So it's showing me that the password reset, and it's giving me the temporary password, and I'll be asked to change it on login. So I fixed all my users. I'm going to fix utilities. So any references to products that are not installed, or references to databases that are not installed can cause you issues. So this is showing me records that have got problems. So I'm going to remove all those references. That helps with upgrades. I'm going to check my framework. This is the account framework. It's actually picked up that there's a difference. So the numbers here, it actually shows me the actual length, maximum length, but it also shows me what's used and what's assigned. So let's say in this company, you can see, oh, what we got up here? You can actually see the sizes and the maximums. So sometimes you might have 3 characters available, but if you've only ever used 2 characters in a particular segment, you'll see it here. You can, if you want, actually edit the framework and make it bigger. You can't make smaller, but you can make it bigger. And this can be used to change your account framework. Okay, this is just going to clean up the data in the dynamics table to match the application and the other companies. So I'll just clean that up. So finally, we've got the fixed tables. So I go in here and it's actually got nothing to fix, and that's because I haven't processed. So this will now look and find all of the tables that exist in the dictionaries and exist in SQL Server. So I'm going to actually turn that off for now, but in here you'll see this is a list of all the tables that exist in both. And I'm going to say, well, validate them. So this is now going through the database and making sure that the tables that exist do actually match their definitions as per dexterity. So if any of them don't match, they'll show up, and then you can actually use the database validation to fix them. This is really good to do before an upgrade, because if you have those values wrong, now I can get the values to the screen. I suppose notice that the screen output is not maximized. It actually went to the size and state that I last left it at. But I can open this and I can say, okay, show me incorrect duplicates. So this here is a table that exists. This definition is old, but it has found another definition for the table that works. So this is classified as an incorrect duplicate. Structure correct, these are all the good guys. These tables are ones that found problem with. So if I actually go and look at in here and say show structure, you'll see here it says, you know, this should be, dexterity says it should be 5, but SQL has it as a 9. If I go into this one, it's got something else wrong with it. Okay, so this one's showing me that, yeah, 61 when it should be 61, but it's only got 60 in it. Okay, so I can now go into fixed tables, and this gives me the opportunity to fix the tables. It will also grant access, so I can actually click on these and fix them. It gives me an option here. I've actually got a table that is for a product that's not installed and is empty, and so I can actually remove that if I wanted to. If there's data in it, it won't offer to remove it. And I can go and mark what I want and then hit process, and it will fix up everything. And we're good. And then when you exit, you'll get a list of what it included and what all the changes it made. So that is database validation. I'll just quickly show you a couple of other things then, because we're getting close to the end of my time. If we go to SQL login maintenance, I have the ability here to reset passwords. So I can actually say, you know, lesson user 1 and 2, I want to reset their password and automatically generate, apply the login policies, and then I can say, okay, apply that, and it's now just sent 2 emails out, and this is the report that I forgot to print before, but it's showing me what those passwords are. But it's also sent emails which are, there you go, there's one of them, and there's the other. So, okay. You can also, if from here, you can also have a look at expiry days and what the policies are about expiry days. And I think that's why this guy didn't tell me that he had expired, because I had forgotten to turn on expiry. My fault. Okay, so another one in here is the note fix utility. I mentioned before about having problems with note indexes. So this is the note fix utility, and we'll post this both these companies. So this runs and it will process and identify what problems you have with your notes. So this guy, this test company's got very little in it. It's almost correct, but this one's got a few more issues in it. So this is showing me all the different things that can go wrong, and there's got a blog article that explains what all of these mean. but I've got notes with no node index. I've got orphan notes. I've got duplicated notes. I've got a whole 9,000 duplicated note indexes. So this is where the same note index has been issued to more than one record. Use duplicate note indexes is where I've got 32 of them. It's been issued to more than one record. So if I click on note index 96, it's actually in 8 different tables, and I can actually go look at the table. In fact, there's what the note says, and I can see whether or not where the note exists in multiple places and decide which record it actually belongs to and mark that. I've got some zero valued notes where there's no note index in the table, and also my next node index is telling me it should be 223 when my maximum note index used in the system is 5,726. So while this is sitting low, it'll keep generating duplicates because it's going to keep issuing numbers that have already been given out before. So this tool allows me to fix up all of my note indexes and make sure that they're correct. And I can pretty well guarantee that almost every site has issues with note indexes, particularly if you take a test company or live company and back it up into test. And obviously it's not so important because it is a backup, but it will now have a problem with its next node index. All right, so the new tool for build 31 is this new database space recovery tool. So it turns out that Microsoft Dynamics GP is not that efficient with a lot of its tables and the way it stores them. And that is because it's using heap tables for a lot of the tables. And records, when they get deleted from a heap table, are never actually, or the space that they took up is never actually removed until you do some a cleanup process. So this here is going to actually do some cleanup for those. I'm just going to choose, yeah, I'll choose one more, mark all. Okay, so I'm just going to choose some tables. Now the other thing that this allows me to do is not just clean up tables, but I can look at heap tables and clustered tables. If I'm running on an enterprise SQL server which supports compression, I can actually say, let's compress this as well. So this is going to compress these 5 tables. So if I run that, this is adding compression to those tables, and then it will be able to tell you how much space you've recovered. So just for doing those tables, I've recovered 10K of space. Now, this is a small database because it's just the 2-ink database, but this could end up saving you up to 50% of your space. Now you can see that the red ticks there, or the red down arrow, that's actually saying the compression's turned on. I can also use this to turn the compression off. So I'll do that. Okay, so I have actually got to the end of what I wanted to demo. So we're open to questions, or I do have more examples of custom code that we can show, but I'd like to open it up to questions. There's nothing sitting in the chat at the moment. Mike, are you okay for people to come online if they want to?
David, can you make me the presenter again? What I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of wrap this up and show the contact us slide, and then
Okay.
I'll stop recording, and then we can open it up to questions if that works for you.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep.
All right. Well, David, we really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through this today. Like I said, I wanted to capture the recording. We're gonna also post this on our website and make this available. So if you have any questions, we can resend the recording. We'd love to speak with you. Again, feel free to reach out to us at sales@njevity.com, or you can see our number there. Like I said, we can connect you up with David, make sure that you get any additional questions answered if anything comes after the fact. But again, David, appreciate the time. Appreciate those of you who have taken time out of your day to join us today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we will open it up to some questions. Bear with me so I can figure out how to actually stop the recording. There we go.